Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another anime figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are taking a look at something a little bit different. Now I personally have never heard of Mazinger Zero before, but the company who made this offered to send a promotional sample, and they said, hey Justin, you may not know much about this, but I reckon you're really going to like it. So of course I said absolutely send it along. I do know that there are a ton of fans of this property out there, so if you do know more about this than I do, please let me know down in the comments below, because based off the box art alone, I personally am really excited to see this thing. Now, if you would like to order it, it is available from toyswonderland.com. I have included the link down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. What we are going to do now, though, is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here, of course, we have the box art for Mazinger Zero. Knowing nothing of the property, I can still appreciate some really cool box art design. I love the image on the front of the box. I do believe that's the figure himself, plus a really awesome shot of him roaring up in the corner. We do have some gold foil print on the front saying Mazinger Zero, same thing on the side, and of course a bunch more product shots on the back with some awesome images of the rocket punch blast effects. This guy looks fantastic. Now do let me know if I should go ahead and check out the source material that this guy is based off. If it's an anime or a comic, let me know down in the comments below. Now on the inside here we do have some Japanese text, once again done in a gorgeous metallic foil, and here we have the Mazinger robot himself. I have to say he is a little bit smaller than I was expecting. But then again, I don't know anything about this line, so this very well could be the size they are supposed to be. First, in-hand impressions are, wow, this guy is a hefty, chunky boy. I am loving the feel of this figure in hand. Now, as you can see, he does come with multiple trays, including one down below. So what we are going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all of the accessories that come with Mazinger Zero. Now let's start off with the display base first. It's relatively simple, yet very functional. More on that in just a second. It's a rather large rectangular display base. It's thin, it's a lightweight plastic, and it's done in this smoked black color. You can also see this Mazinger Zero, I assume that's what it says, print on the front in some really nice gold foil, plus a couple of faux rivets around the edge there. Now, in order to connect the Mazinger himself to the base, you have two options. They both consist of these metal rods. They are very nice and sturdy. You have two different heights, one to have him in the air and one to have him standing on the ground. Now, to actually connect him to the base, you have this piece right here. You actually connect it under the crotch, so you switch out this crotch plate entirely, and don't worry, in just a second we'll look at the instruction manual and I'll show you what I'm talking about. He also comes with this piece, which does interact with the display base. The piece itself is huge, as you can see. It's really nicely done as well. It's a translucent red plastic with some chrome silver paint underneath, just to give it that depth, and it really does work. You also have this little peg on the back, which you can use to connect it to his back, or you can opt to remove it. Then you're left with this porthole. Bringing back in the display base, you have this little peg right here. You can plug that piece onto the base and have him just hovering above it. That is one of the options that they do show you in the manual right here. I don't necessarily know what this is all about, so I'm really curious. Please let me know down below. You do have a ton of different options for display. You've got swap out bits and pieces. You do have a bunch of different options for the blast effects, which we may as well discuss right now. So bringing in the blast effects themselves, they look relatively simple until you start to disassemble them. So you have this big honkin' piece right here, done with a beautiful gradient from the burnt orange up the top to the lighter yellow down below, and then you have this more sort of crazy looking fire blast, and then you pull this one off and you get another fire blast down below. So together you can combine them all up and it will look something like this. But that's not all. If you bring in these pieces, which are display bases for his rocket punch arms, you can actually sit them on this rod up the top here. These base pieces are solid metal. They weigh a ton. They're really nicely painted too, with some gunmetal paint over the top. Then these rods, of course, can bend. They feel really nice and solid because, once again, they are metal. There is a ton of diecast here. He also comes with a ton of bladed weapons. These do connect to his gauntlets, and the instruction manual does warn you that yes, they are a little bit sharp, so do be careful not to prick yourself. You will see these on Mazinger a little bit later in the video. He only comes with one set of hands, but the way they've done them is rather ingenious. You can actually remove this backplate, and then you can see you have a swivel back and forward, kind of like an Iron Man figure. But with the way this piece is sculpted, you can't actually access that joint. But they've thought about that. If you bring in one of these swap out plates and peg it on, you can then access that joint because it's at an angle now. That's something that honestly I wish Hot Toys would do with their Iron Man figures, because this means you can go all out just with the articulated hands. You don't actually have to use those rubbery plastic fists. Lastly, he comes with these blast effect attachment pieces. You peg the blast into it, and then this becomes the sort of rocket booster engine for his rocket punch hands. It's a really interesting way of doing it, and don't worry, we will try that towards the end of the video. What we are going to do now, though, is get the Mazinger himself out here and take a closer look. And here we have Mazinger Zero standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And even though I know nothing about him or where he came from, I love the way he looks. I know a dope toy when I see one. That's exactly what this guy is. I don't even need to know anything about him to know he looks cool. I love the design, the massive blades on his forearms, the light up effect, the paint applications which are really crisp and clean and well applied. The sculpt work is super sharp and immaculate, and there's a ton of it. Plus, he's chock full of diecast, so he weighs a ton. Overall, even though I know nothing about him, I'm still really impressed with Mazinger Zero. What we are going to do now, though, is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal, and this figure looks insane. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm all for it. I love the way he looks. And don't worry, in just a second we'll put that massive energy piece on the back to see what that looks like. But as he stands right out of the box, I'm really impressed. There is a ton of sculpted in detail, plus of course he does have an opening mouth. But that's not it. He actually has a capacitive touch panel integrated into the back, so when we touch it, he does light up, both the chest and also the eyes. There are a couple of different modes for the lights. You can have just the eyes on, you can have none of them on, or you can have all of them on. So I do appreciate that they've gone all out with the detail. Plus, if you open his mouth, he has a massive light shining through there. That looks fantastic. I'm super impressed with how he looks, and also how he's painted. As for this chest plate, it is all translucent plastic, so it carries the light very nicely, but there is some detail on the inside, kind of like his energy is blasting out and making these massive red pieces. I don't know if that's how it works, mind you, but it looks really cool. You can detach this piece in the center if you'd like to get access to his battery compartment, and there's even some detail on the back, which is something they absolutely didn't have to do. So they have gone all out, as I said, with the detailing. As for the rest of him, he is painted in this beautiful, metallic, very dark gunmetal paint, but also he's accented by some lighter silver and some lighter gunmetal as well. then there are various sections like inside the elbows, down here on the legs, that are just straight die-cast metal and they shine a treat. This guy initially looks like a very simple design, but trust me, when you get him in hand, he just pops, especially under harsh lighting. Now you can switch out the blades. I have gone for the more tame versions, if you'd honestly believe that, because they are massive, but you can swap them out for even bigger ones, and I do plan to do that a little bit later in the video. He does also have a lot of design work on the back. It's nice and smooth and simple, mind you, but you can definitely tell there is a lot of tech detail that's gone into him. He's not just a basic, simple, blocky robot design. There is a lot to look at based on up here on the abs. You've got a lot of tech detail in there, plus some here on the blades, and also coming down to the feet. If we flip him over, he does have a bunch of detail under here as well, with some rocket thrusters. This guy might be unfamiliar to me for now, but I'm still really impressed with the way he looks in hand. Just before we move on, I did promise to show you what he looks like wearing this massive piece on the back. Again, I have no idea as to the significance of this, but it looks really cool. If I eventually display this guy in my collection, I'll probably go without because it is really, really big. But if you want something that's striking in your display, yeah, this right here is it. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, I had no idea who to compare this guy to, so I looked behind me in the studio and I saw my Naruto figure. So here we have them. As you can see, the Mazinger is shorter than the Naruto, which makes sense. He's not trying to be a 1/6 scale bot. I see this guy more along the same lines as a DLX scale 3-0 transformer, chock full of diecast, but slightly shorter, coming in at around 8 inches. For me, that works really nicely. He's a nice, manageable size, plus when you get to the massive effect for the back piece and the massive blades, it makes sense for him to be slightly smaller. But trust me, he still feels very substantial and weighty in hand. Just going over articulation on Mazinger 0. Now bear in mind there are a ton of moving parts and pieces here. He's a very complex figure, so if I miss a joint, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not familiar at all with this style of figure, so do let me know if he has even more range of motion down below. Now starting off with the head sculpt, you do have a pretty significant amount of motion, but you also do have that opening jaw which we saw earlier. Going down, not an issue, same thing going back, pivot and swivel side to side. The arms themselves will go up the full way. There is a pretty significant butterfly joint at the shoulder, and of course going forward on really stiff and sturdy joints. Now of course you do have a bunch of stuff kind of sticking out of him, so you will have to move stuff out of the way to get the maximum range. Going out to about there, swivel at the bicep, but also swivel at the gauntlet. You do have a bend at the elbow, but another bend down here. It's a really interesting design, and of course it gets you way past 90, so pretty impressed with the arm movement. You do also have swivel side to side for the wrist, and backwards and forwards as well. As for the torso, you do have crunch going forward, and going back, swivel and pivot side to side, although as I said, there is a ton of stuff up here, so it's a little bit hard to get the maximum range, but you definitely can play with it to get it where you want it to. The legs themselves will go forward to about there. You can detach these skirts to get it to go up a little bit higher. Swivel at the thigh, going out to about there. A double bend here at the knee, which goes way past 90. You do also have down here at the foot, pivot side to side, forward and back, plus of course, toe articulation. Just wrapping up on Mazinger 0. Now going into this, I had no idea what to expect, and at the end of this, I still know nothing about the character, but the toy itself has won me over. There's something about Japanese diecast that just works, and this guy has it in spades. He oozes quality, he comes with awesome effect pieces, the light up effects are fantastic, I love the accessories. The swap out blades are awesome. He comes with a sizable display base. I mean, what's not to love here? I'm super impressed with this figure. Now, those who know more about him will probably be able to tell me if this guy is worth picking up in figure format. For all I know, he's just some random side character. But with a design like this, I don't really care. He just looks so darn intimidating. I love the rocket punch blast effects. If I choose to display this guy alongside my other anime figures after I find out what he's from, I probably will be displaying him with those blast effects because I am in love with them. I will be keeping a close eye on this company to see if they make something from any properties I do know, so definitely stay tuned to the channel. Also, let me know if you have enjoyed this video and I will try and do more like it based off this property as well as others. If you are looking to pick this guy up, he is available from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is of course down in the description below, and they do have 12-month installment plans if you are a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, while you are down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.